happening, guys? Allie here to give you an update on all the big wins from this past week by our great Rumpier Sports hosts and members. Our guy Uncle Dunkle led the charge with over 40K in NFL winnings for week 16. Huge congrats to longtime RPS member D-Rock for his 24K NBA hit on Christmas. The Lil Jordan Humphrey love was strong in the Discord on Monday and led to some huge wins on the Showdown slate. Surprise, surprise, BigT had another big night, pulling in over 100K across sites on the Dolphins Saints Showdown slate. This was just a few days after shipping another 150K in NBA. BigT wasn't the only one repping Rumpier Sports with a big hit. Shout out to Quick on to Cribs, who also took down 24K on Monday's NFL Showdown slate. Meanwhile, Tway Rich hit for over 35K across sites, and Joseph Swartz shipped 215K on DraftKings. The wins just keep piling up in the RPS universe, which could only mean one thing. There is no better time to join than right now. We've recently teamed with SaberSim to offer a great deal on a combo subscription where you can access all of our content and their great optimizer and projection system for one low price. Head on over to rumpiersports.com to get the deal now and start running pure with us.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Rumpier Sports NBA Hardwood Show. I'm your host, Mangone. Hit the like, hit the subscribe on the video. Helps us out a ton. We can get that out of the way. But we got the Tuesday crew, and people say the Tuesday crew, we're the toughest in town. You know, we'll take the plays away if the likes aren't up. You know, we go through the really difficult slates too. I mean, we don't get the 10 gamers that are really nice and glamorous. We grind through the mud. So we got Hoop here. We got DC. Hoop, how is your day? And how are you feeling about this NBA slate?
Everything's going well. I mean, the slate's 5-game. I like 5-game slates. Not like a ton of news that we're waiting on. Obviously, anything could pop up, but we really haven't had too much like out of nowhere surprising news as of late. So Julius Randle, I think, is the big piece of information we need for the slate, but it sounds like he's going to play off the COVID list. I have to imagine he's going to hop right back into it, but really it's a relatively quiet slate in terms of what we're waiting for. Yes, anything can pop up out of nowhere, but yeah, I like the looks of it so far.
Yep, I like the looks of it so far too. A lot to discuss, a lot to talk about. And DC, I'll head on over to you. You know, I haven't talked to you, I think, since the new year. So, you know, besides the NBA slate, you can tell us a little bit about that. But do you got any New Year's resolutions for the people? Anything for that? And maybe you got some fitness ones that we don't know about. Maybe you're going to become a triathlon person. Maybe you're going to start doing that. You'll start swimming too as well. But what do you got for us?
No triathlons. DC not that great at swimmer. You know, I can survive out there, but I don't want to be swimming like a mile across open water. Now I'll pass on that. Stick to the biking and the running. But yeah, things are good. DFS been going well. Beautiful weather here in Denver, and ready for this slate. And I do think, you know, I've said it for a couple days now. I do think we're starting to come out the other side of this COVID stuff with the NBA, where it's like, I mean, I don't even know which team it would be, but what do you think is the lowest number of COVID protocol cases that the team that has had the least has had in the NBA? Probably like 5, 6, or 7, I would guess, for the team that's been least affected by it. So,
well, do you know what team has battled the COVID better than anyone is the Utah Jazz. It just doesn't strike them in Utah. It must be the lifestyle. I'm not sure, but
so one more team it's got to run through, and then I think we'll kind of be in the clear, hopefully, until something else comes up. But yeah, it'll be nice. Like Hoop said, not a ton of news that we're waiting on. It's mostly the Knicks big men, Randle, Robinson, Noel, all questionable with the COVID stuff. We'll see on them, but like Hoop said, I do expect Randle to play. Only been out a couple games. Usually the guys that just missed 1 or 2 games, likely, you know, were not very sick, right? And they're going to come back and kind of hit the ground running. Darius Garland, I think, kind of fits that bill as well. So he'll be back in there. So good to see these players back. And I think we'll get kind of normal chaotic NBA instead of COVID chaotic NBA coming up here in the next week or so.
That'll definitely be important. I guess who probably stepped away to maybe make sure the carpet's good and make sure the kids are okay. But DC, I'll tell you, talk about the triathlon stuff and you'd be terrible at the swimming. Well, here's a little tip for you. Everyone's not good at the swimming, but my uncle does the triathlon stuff. He's good at the swimming. And what happens is he's like a top 5% or 2% guy out of the water. And then you know what happens? He just falls the rest of the way. But he still grinds them out and finishes them. And
they can't be fun though. You get off to the lead and you're just getting passed for the next 7 hours.
That's how it started, but he's gotten better. I think in one of the things he finished top in his age group. So that was very good. But yeah, you start out in front and then you just start falling.
It would be the opposite for me. I'd be in dead last when we got out of the water and hopefully maybe would pass some people in the final 2 legs.
Who knows, DC? I mean, I will say, as someone who I was in Colorado, right? And I went to Florida and then I went on a run there. Man, it was a lot easier to run there. So if you go to some of those places where it's a little bit easier, who knows? You might be a super athlete. You never know. But that's enough for that. Hoop, did you yell at the kids? Did you make sure the carpet was good? Where were you? What was going on?
Gosh, it's these AirPods. They have me on tilt for so the kids' iPads are. I don't know how Apple works everything, but everything just gets connected. It seems like so. If the kids go on their iPad, it connects to my AirPods. It's just it's a disaster. I can't figure it out. I'm a donkey when it comes to the technology stuff.
I did have I lost my AirPods the other day and I was looking around and it said connected. And I said, you know what's good? I didn't lose them somewhere else. They're somewhere in this room because they can't be connected, right? They can't be too far away, or they're in another room, but they got to be nearby. So yeah, I had some technology issues the other day too. So I can relate to you. And Nadesify says it's winners time, baby. And time to bring the winners and talk about this slate. And I'm sure we'll be able to breeze through this pretty decently quick, but we'll see. Maybe we'll be out in time. Maybe we'll take a little bit longer. Depends on how some news shakes out. Let's go to the first game and let's talk about the Spurs and let's talk about the Raptors. And you've been backing the Spurs a little bit. I've been backing the Spurs, but I can't back this Spurs team. It's definitely a little bit of a different team. And the Raptors are a team I have not been backing much. I haven't been playing a ton in DFS unless they're just absolutely decimated. And they're back with a lot of guys, but some of their minutes are pretty interesting. And I just can't completely ignore. And I know you're kind of a game log guy, Hoop, and I kind of pulled up the game logs and looked, and I was like, man, so Fred VanVleet is 9K. Feels uncomfortable. But when I saw the game log, I was like, maybe they're back. Maybe they're good. I looked at some usage numbers. It seems like it's not a bad spot. As uncomfortable as Fred VanVleet at 9K sounds, I'm kind of interested. Are you interested? Because I know it's uncomfortable. And then talk to me about the Spurs value plays, because they are definitely going to be a team that we are getting some exposure to on this slate.
Yeah, so I mean, the Raptors are one of these teams that are trending in the right direction with the injuries. They're getting all their guys back. They're playing some solid basketball now. And yeah, I mean, you look at Fred VanVleet and Siakam, VanVleet, 57, 54 fantasy points, played 39 minutes in one of those games. Siakam, 50, 67, 50, playing 40 minutes a game. You can't really argue with that. The price tags, 9K for VanVleet doesn't feel great. 8-7 for Siakam doesn't feel great. But, in some of these teams where you can't get all the way up to that top tier, let's say you play LeBron, who, will be very popular tonight, and you can't get, up to, Sabonis or someone like that, I'd be fine settling in with VanVleet or Siakam. I mean, odds are one of these guys are going for 50 fantasy points. And if they do, they're paying off their price tag. So, Siakam, VanVleet definitely in the player pool tonight. Outside of that, though, on the Raptors, there's not too much to like. OG is cheap on FanDuel at 6.4. I think you can look to him, but it's really Siakam and VanVleet on the Raptors side. And then the Spurs, no DeJounte Murray again tonight, which means Trey Jones will likely get the start. And he played pretty well last time. 32 minutes, 28 fantasy points. He's still cheap. 4-1 on FanDuel, 3-8 on DK. Very playable. Derek White at 7-2 is a strong play tonight. Better price on DK. Then Keldon Johnson, 5-5 on FanDuel. I don't hate that. Jakob Poeltl, always a solid play when he's around 6K. I mean, it just seems like when he's around 6K, he's going to play about 30 minutes and probably get you between 30 and 35 fantasy points, which is enough. Curious to see who starts. Sounds like Bates Diop is back. If he starts, I want to play Devin Vassell, but if he's coming off the bench, there's a little more risk with a guy like Vassell. I think he's in play either way, but I'd prefer him to be in that starting lineup. So actually a lot to like here, like those Raptors guys that I mentioned. And then on the Spurs side, we're looking at probably 5 or 6 guys that are in play for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely are guys in play. And if you're going to play a lot of Spurs, well, on a 5-game slate, why not maybe do a run back, DC? Why not make it Fred VanVleet? Why not Pascal Siakam? It certainly could be them. I know I just did the bet show, and our guy Tyler had a bet on the bet side with Scotty Barnes. So maybe it's him. I mean, there are options here I think you can go to on a 5-game slate, but I'm not going to ignore this Spurs value. And I'm also not ignoring Derek White at 7.2K. I think this like 7K and 8K range has some interesting options as well that could have some really good scores tonight. And I think Derek White, if you told me at 7.2K he had between like 45 and like 60 fantasy points, I would not be shocked in this spot. I think it's a good spot for him. I like a lot of guys in this game, and I think it's a good one. 223 total. How are you handling this game, DC?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the Derek White train with DeJounte Murray out. He's been awesome. You know, he's the man when DeJounte Murray is out. He's the lead ball handler, the lead creator, and you can see it in the game logs. He's crushed it for the most part. Still not too expensive, 7,200 on DraftKings. I think is a good play. And then you look at the Toronto side, like they have made a big change. Toronto has that I think is related to the production that Siakam and VanVleet in particular have had. And that's Siakam at center. He's the starting center now, right? They used to be running Precious or Boucher or, before that, Gasol, Ibaka. Now it's Siakam at the 5. And what that does is it speeds up this team. VanVleet is great in transition. He likes to get out and run. And when you have Siakam as the 5, surrounded by Gary Trent, who can get out in transition, hit threes. You've got Scotty Barnes, who's a rookie who can run. And you see it in how many points this Toronto team is putting up, 115 plus points in 5 straight games at home. I'm not scared of the Spurs defense, right? I mean, this team can certainly compete against the Spurs. So it's those kind of 2 guys that I want, though, VanVleet and Siakam. If you look at, you can look at like rotation stuff. VanVleet, even these 2 of these last 3 games when he's played like 33 and 31 minutes, one of the games he didn't play a single minute in the fourth quarter, the 31-minute game, because they blew him out, right? And so Siakam and VanVleet in a close game, if they're just a normal game, they're playing 40-plus minutes. You can see it in the rotation patterns, and I know they're expensive. I wish they were a little bit cheaper, but they're producing game in and game out. I think it's related to the change. The matchup is good, and they've even lost out on some minutes kind of in a fluky way in 2 of the last 3 games. So, yeah, these Toronto guys – maybe fly a little bit under the radar. Some sticker shock, I think, from a 9K Fred VanVleet. He's earned it, and I think he'll most likely probably earn it again tonight. So I'm in on these Raptors. For me, if you want to, play 2 or 3 Raptors, Derek White is the run back for me. Maybe you include Pirtle in there if you want to, but I think White is the main guy that I want from the Spurs here.
Yeah, our guy AP, he was on Kuzma yesterday and crushed for him. He had a nice little day, so congrats to him. I said yesterday, I think Kuzma's at 8K. He should probably be 8.5 or a little bit more. Like, I feel that way with Fred VanVleet. I wouldn't be shocked if he was 9.5 the next slate and people were still like, oh, I can't pay 9.5 for Fred VanVleet. Listen, it's only a 5-game slate, and the guys to spend on, there's only 2 guys above 10K. It's Russell Westbrook and it's LeBron James. So you tell me people aren't going to be on VanVleet. I am definitely interested. I think he's a good play and someone that I am highly considering today in my lineups. Hoop, any final thoughts here on this Raptors and Spurs game, or you want to move on to the next one?
A lot of good plays. I mean, I think there's legit like 7 or 8 guys to consider from this game. I mean, plays on both sides, but I'm with you guys. VanVleet, Siakam. I mean, it's just so nice to know if the game's competitive, they're playing like 40 minutes, and there's just not many guys in the NBA that you can say that about. We know that's the case with the Raptors. Close game, those guys will be out there for 40. And like I said, it just seems almost certain that one of these guys will drop 50 tonight, fantasy points, that is.
Yeah, and the chat is justifying a lot of the things that I thought would happen. Flip Yo Flow says, just don't like their prices. Yeah, a lot of people are uncomfortable with their prices. Yeah. That's going to take ownership down. On top of that, you got Sean says, isn't Toronto back to full strength? Sure. Are they back to full strength? Yes, sort of. But here's the thing. What happens? There's some teams when they're back to full strength, their rotation is stronger. You know what happens? It doesn't matter who's in there. It could be Draft Cheat. It could be Hoop. It could be Mangone. It could be Big T.
40 minutes. 40 minutes.
40 minutes. They get the minutes. Yeah. It doesn't matter. They're not mixing and matching all these different guys to soak up 20 minutes, and then that just messes things up. So if you're a starter on the Raptors, you're likely getting 40 minutes as long as the game is close and competitive. So yeah, I think this is a good spot for these guys. I like hearing that people are a little, upset about this spot and saying, oh, I don't want to play these guys. So let's move to the next one. DC, let's talk about the Grizzlies and let's talk about the Cavs, because the Grizzlies are a team that I have been targeting a bit. I think Desmond Bain is one of those guys at 6'7". People look at and say that price tag's uncomfortable. I don't think that price tag is uncomfortable. I think that price tag is still wrong. I think he could be up to the 7.5 range. I think he still is upside at that price. And I feel the same way about Ja Morant. The only thing I'm kind of pausing about with Ja Morant is I think the concern is he's going up against the Cavaliers, and the Cavaliers, as I talked with Tyler on the bet show, is they got some trees down low. They can just absolutely swat the ball and just make it more difficult on Ja Morant driving to the hoop. So that's something I'm thinking about a little bit, but I think he's a good spend up option on this slate. And on the Cavs side, they're supposed to be getting Darius Garland back. And I think some of these price tags are a little more uncomfortable. You can make a case for Kevin Love that he can obviously produce in that role that he's in. You can make a case for a Evan Mobley at 7-1, but I don't love Cavs on this slate. I like some other options. So they feel like guys that I'm more going to fade, but I do want to play some of these Grizzlies because if you look, like I mentioned before, they don't have bench guys. If you look, Tyus Jones is the only other actual ball handler on this team. So you know who has to handle the ball a lot? Ja Morant. And at 9.8K, another guy, it feels a little bit uncomfortable to roster, but I think he still has some really nice ceiling at that price tag.
Yeah, I think all good points there. I was on Desmond Bain big yesterday. He had very low ownership. I think he was sub 5% owned, which shocked me. Like, I don't always dig in as far as the ownership. I kind of just play what I think is sometimes the best team. Bain was what I thought was on the best team. He was phenomenal. He was unowned. I guess I assume that'll be the case again tonight. Mango, you mentioned the defense for the Cavs. I'm a big believer in this defense specifically when both Mobley and Jared Allen are in, right? Like we've seen a bunch of games recently where neither of them are in, but both back for this game. They did, of course, lose Rubio, which I think is a defensive hit. But the way you want to attack the Cavs, just from a, not even a numbers standpoint, but just watching them play with Mobley and Allen down low, it's got to be perimeter scorers, right? Perimeter shooters in particular, because you don't want to drive into the paint where those two guys can block you. I think Garland, a decent defender on the perimeter, but the guys that Desmond Bain is going to go up against, I mean, these guys are like very borderline NBA players. I mean, Windler, like on the wing, even Okoro's out. So it's like Windler, Stevens, maybe Dean Wade, Markkanen. Like these guys aren't going to be able to stop Desmond Bain, who's a legit, he reminds me a little bit of like a early career Bradley Beal. He's just a legit scorer that can score on anybody and can definitely score on these Cavs wins. So Desmond Bain, the guy I'm looking at specifically from Memphis. I think Ja Morant's a fine play, but when I'm not sure, I'll attack the weakness. To me, the weakness of this Cleveland defense is clearly on the wing. Desmond Bain fits in perfectly there. So he's the guy I want most from Memphis. The Cleveland side, probably off of it. I mean, without Rubio, we're going to see some big games from Darius Garland, who I think is still underrated. But 9,400 coming off COVID, I mean, I just can't pull the trigger on that one. Over at FanDuel, 7,700 for Garland. If we get word that there's no minutes limitation, which I think is probably the most likely thing, then I think he is in play. But they did get other guards, right? They signed Goodwin, and then Pangos was up. So it's not like Garland is completely bereft of point guards behind him. If he was, I'd be more likely to pull the trigger. But there are guys that can play alongside him, or, if he can only play 30, 35 minutes, can come in and do his job while Rondo kind of gets healthy too. So Garland is interesting on FanDuel, but mostly fading Cleveland, and then Desmond Bain might play on the Grizzlies here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that Bain's a really good option. But yeah, let's move on and go over to Hoop and talk to us about this one. Memphis is definitely a team that I like a little bit today, but I don't love Cleveland. Cleveland feels like, I don't know if they're a full fade, but they're a team I don't really want to roster too much of. I don't know if they're the fade of the slate, but they're a team I'm not super comfortable rostering on this slate, Hoop. How about you? What are you doing here with the Cavs and the Grizzlies?
Yeah, tough with the Cavs getting Garland back, and he's 9.4 on DK. Like I can't pay 9.4 for Garland here. I got Love, they got Allen, Mobley, Markkanen, and when all those guys are in, they just take away from each other. If I was going to play any of them on DK, it'd probably be Mobley at 7.1 on FanDuel. Jared Allen 7.9. I think he's in play a little bit. For the most part, though, going to be off the Cavs side. Pangos, I'm not going there with Garland back. And then on the Memphis side, I think we have some tournament options. I mean, Ja Morant's playing some big boy basketball, putting up big numbers. Desmond Bain always comes in lower owned, and Desmond Bain is legit. And I mean, you look at it, 23 shots, 20 shots, 18 shots, 22, 19, 20. He's chucking the ball, like absolutely chucking the ball. playing a lot of minutes. I love Bain, and he continues to be like really low owned. Jaren Jackson's okay. And then off the bench, Brandon Clark at 3.8K, have interest in him. Tyus Jones at 4.1K, had a solid game last night. Only played 20 minutes, but went for like 30 fantasy points, 34 fantasy points the game before. Again, prefer some of these Grizzlies guys, more tournament plays, I'd say. And then on the Cavs side, not a ton of interest. Mobley on DK and maybe Jared Allen on FanDuel.
What'd you think of DC with his Beal versus Bain reference? It's definitely a hot take, but I don't hate it. I think it's kind of not bad for sure because Bain's a young guy and he's just really putting up the buckets and he can definitely defend really well.
Similar games. I mean, very similar games. They both can they're very good shooters. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So I don't hate that comparison. You look at more surprising names this year. I mean, Desmond Bain has to be at the top of the list, and I guess not surprising, but most improved. Like he's just a big leap this year, and Grizzlies are playing good basketball.
Yeah, and another thing, Hoop, this is a little narrative. I don't know if he did it, but Desmond Bain, he was like picked like 27th or 30th. So any of the teams that he says passed on him, he basically is like out for. But it's not just the guys who passed him; it's the ones that had interviews and then did not decide to take him. So I don't know if the Raptors are that. I have to do some research, but like the Lakers are an example. The Lakers are a team that they had an interview. It sounded like a good fit, and then the Lakers said no. So Desmond
they could sure use it. They could sure use a guy like Desmond Bain. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, that would be very valuable to the Lakers right now. It would definitely be something that they would make a trade for if they could. But yeah, definitely. I like me some Desmond Bain tonight. Think this is a game you can get some exposure to, but not as much exposure as the next game. We got like a nice 30-minute window until this one. Before we talk about the Pacers and the Knicks, guys, hit that like, hit that subscribe on the video. It helps us out a ton. We got 470 watching, 150 likes. So let's get those things moving along. Pacers and the Knicks, though. I want to talk about this game because I don't know. This could be the team of the day. Like the Pacers, I think a lot of people are looking at Sabonis. You can't sleep on Miles Turner completely at that price tag, even though it feels kind of uncomfortable, but it's a 5-game slate. Kiefer Sykes and Dwayne Washington. I would not know who they are if I ran into them. That's the issue here, but I think these guys are guys that are going to put up shots. I think these are guys that you can play at their cheap price tags. I do think you can make an argument that there's a lot of value on this slate and there could be other plays that you can go to. Hoop, here's the thing I'm trying to figure out. Pacers value or the Spurs value, which ones are better? And then what are you doing with the studs in Sabonis and Miles Turner?
Well, the Pacers value is going to be way more popular. I mean, you're looking at some of the most popular plays on the slate just because of what they did like last game. Dwayne Washington played 35 minutes, put up almost 30 fantasy points. He is 4K. Sykes played 35 minutes, put up 25 fantasy points, and he's 3.5K. These guys are going to be massively owned tonight, and probably for all the right reasons. I mean, the Pacers are still pretty thin. Justin Holiday played a chunk of minutes, 36. You know what you're getting with Sabonis. You know what you're getting with Miles Turner. It's just 5 guys that are really, really strong plays on the slate, but they're going to be 5 of probably the highest owned guys on the slate as well. So it's definitely some decision-making, but I do think you want at least like 2 Pacers on all your teams tonight. It just makes so much sense. They're going to, assuming the game's close, which the spread indicates 3-point spread, these guys are going to play a lot of minutes. So then on the Knicks side, it all depends on this injury situation. Julius Randle potentially coming back. He's off the list. He can return. I have a feeling he does play 10-7 on DK. I'm not paying 10-7 for him. If he's out, I like a guy. I like RJ Barrett. I like you can play this McBride guy for like 3K. Evan Fournier. If he's in, all those guys take a hit. I think I still like RJ Barrett though. He's kind of playing pretty well as of late. So being on RJ Barrett probably regardless. Pacers side very tough to avoid.
Yeah, I'm torn on the RJ Barrett thing because like he's fine, but like I do think with Randle, if he does come back, that could muddy some things up. That depends with the COVID thing, but also Randle could maybe not play as many minutes to start out. But if he's starting, we know what Tom Thibodeau does. He runs you into the ground. I will say Evan Fournier, he's a guy that if things are going well, sure, I'll ride it out, but things are not going well for Mr. Fournier, so I am out on him. DC, you like some Julius Randle typically. I don't know if you'll like him at the 10.7K price tag relative to some of these other options. And then you got to talk about the Pacers because they are a team to target tonight on this slate.
Yeah, if Randle plays, again, not out very long, didn't miss much time. I mean, he played Okay, yeah. So he missed the New Year's Eve and then January 2nd. So just 2 games. He played back on the 29th, back already. I would assume he'll be good to go. I would assume he'll play in this game. Still can't pay the 10.7K price tag on DraftKings, but 8,700 on FanDuel, I think you can pay. Again, I do assume he'll be good to go here. Could be wrong on that, but that's my assumption going forward with Randle and these guys who only miss a couple games and then get cleared basically at the minimum amount of time with the new rules. So yeah, Randle I think is interesting. If he is out, if I'm wrong, and he does sit, then a lot of Knicks I think become in play. RJ Barrett, like who mentioned, a decent play anyway with Kemba, Rose out, but also then at that point, Emmanuel Quickly I think would become an interesting play. Obi Toppin would become an interesting play. So the Knicks, that news, if it does come to fruition where Randle sits, again I would throw Alec Burks 6,300 in the mix there as well. So Quickly, Burks, Toppin, and Barrett, 4 guys there who I think all would make for pretty good plays from the Knicks if Randle does sit. If Randle's in, all of those guys take a hit to varying degrees, but they all take, I think, a pretty significant hit because we have seen Randle, he can kind of be the point forward, right? And he kind of he'll take that role from that's the role you want if you're rostering Quickly or Burks or RJ Barrett, and Randle will take a lot of that from them. So big news there with Randle. If he's out, load up the wagons on the Knicks. If he's in, be much more cautious would be my kind of, just quick advice on it. And then the Pacers, yeah, I mean, so many guys out. If you look at the data, it was Kiefer Sykes who played more of that traditional Brogdon / McConnell / LeVert. All 3 of those guys now down. He was kind of more of the traditional point guard type. I do prefer him over Washington, but certainly both guys in play. This team is just kind of down to their bare bones in the backcourt, where I think both those guys are going to have to play a lot of minutes. I didn't even mention Duarte and Jeremy Lamb. So 5 guys from the backcourt out for Indiana. Sabonis, again, a huge part of their offense, right? And a guy who can distribute. So you got to assume he's going to take on more of this offense. He said 2 very strong games in a row. I would expect a third here, frankly. So, yeah, give me the backcourt, Sykes and Washington, and then I'll go up to Sabonis. Miles Turner, I think he's an okay play, but he's just not someone that's going to create his own offense, right? I don't think he really gets some huge bump from new point guards in there because it's not like you're throwing it down to Turner on the block and letting him go to work, no matter who's in there for the Knicks. So I think Turner's okay, but give me Sabonis and the 2 no-name backcourt guys for Indiana.
Yeah, definitely guys that you have to look at. Hoop, if you have to pick Washington or Kiefer Sykes. I lean Kiefer because I trust Kiefer Sullivan. So I don't know too many of those guys, right? So I trust him. So I'm going to trust Kiefer Sykes. How about you? Do you have like a lean on that? Because I was joking, like I played on Sunday and I was joking about those 2 guys who've been like, when I was talking to one of my buddies about it, I was like, one's $300 less. I don't know anything about them. So let me just lean the $300 less guy. I mean,
that's that was my opinion too. I played that slate and I ended up playing them both, which worked out. I mean, I don't know nothing about these guys. I know they're both cheap. They're going to play 35 minutes and hopefully give me about 30 fantasy points. No lean. I mean, maybe this Dwayne Washington guy, I guess. It sounds like there might be more hype around him, but I really don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like there could be, but I was like, it's a Sunday and he just got announced a starter and like the projections are not updating from people. And I think they're the same guy. If people are not going to play this one, sure, I'll go to him. And it was like a 4-point difference. That 300 mattered though. I definitely needed it to get an extra guy in my lineup, but I think that extra guy was Ant and he did not work out, but I knew it was what I wanted to do. So I'm perfectly fine with it. I don't think there's a huge difference. If one guy's 80% owned and one is 20% owned, give me that 20% guy. Cause I don't think there's a huge difference between the 2 of them. DC, do you tend to agree there on that one? Or have you been grinding the film all day on these 2 guys?
I look at the data. So like the potential assists, passes made, passes completed, dribbles, that type of stuff. And that all points me to Sykes, but Sykes is also like the older prospect. So I think Washington's the guy who probably has more upside long-term, but for one game, for today's game, I would take Sykes over Washington.
All right, there you go. Hoop. So I'm looking at the amount of people. We got 554 watching and 168 likes. And on the bet show, I heard We the People, one of the chatters, he said, man, going on the bet side, he's a little more aggressive than on the DFS side. And you know what? Maybe it's because I'm hosting. I got to kind of be in the middle, but I could be aggressive and take those plays away. I don't feel happy with where we're at, Hoop. So what's the number we got to get to here? 550 watching and 169 likes.
Yeah, we got a lot of work to do. We're at what, 170, 275.
275 and only 2 games left. And not saying we can breeze through these games, but it can happen at times.
Hey, the members always appreciate when you withhold the plays of the day. So I mean, we'll get them right into the old Discord channel.
Yeah, I mean, the members got them right where they want them, but we'll see how it gets home. We'll see what happens. But yeah, we got to get to 275. So get the likes up. I'll say it one more time in between these 2 games, and then that's it. Let's talk about the Suns and let's talk about the Pelicans. And I think I mentioned on this show, I'm probably blending the 2 together because I just got off the bet show, but I think there's some interesting 7K guys. And one of them is Chris Paul at 7.4K. Now, Devin Booker at 8.8, he definitely could get the job done, but I lean Chris Paul over him, but one is shooting guard eligible, one's point guard eligible. I don't know if the position will matter here in this spot, Hoop, but I want Chris Paul at 7.4K. I think he's a really good option. And I like Jalen Smith as well at 5.5. I think those are 2 of the stronger options. And I think you can mix and match some of these other guys throughout your lineups in this Pelicans matchup, but those are the 2 that I'm leaning on the Sun side. And then the Pelican side, I just don't have a lot of interest in these guys except Valanciunas on FanDuel at that 7.5K price tag. So who break this down for me, the Suns and the Pelicans. What are you doing here in this spot?
Yeah, I mean, I like the Sun side. Pelicans, I probably won't play anyone. Valanciunas on FanDuel, I think is fine. He's 7.5K, but outside of that, Alexander Walker as well. I think you can play him as a value play. 4-5 on FanDuel, 4-1 on DK. Fine going there. But on the Sun side, yeah, we have some nice plays, I believe. Chris Paul, like you said, Jalen Smith, both solid plays. Bridges, I don't mind at 4.8K. Like his game sets up well for DK with 3s. Cam Johnson, I think you can play these guys. I know last time out were involved in a blowout, so they didn't get their full run. And I believe that's happened on a couple other occasions. But like you look at Jalen Smith, and he's been right at or around 30 fantasy points in every single game since Ayton's been out. And hasn't played more than like 29 minutes. If he were to get into the 30s, he could have a massive game. So I really like Jalen Smith here. Chris Paul on DK at 7.4 is a good price point play. 7.8 on FanDuel, still don't hate that. Booker, more of a FanDuel play for me where he's at 8K flat, 8.8 on DK, not the greatest, but the Suns are in a phenomenal spot here. Projected to score a lot of points. They should be able to get whatever they want against this Pelicans team. I think all 5 of the starters are in play to some degree. And, the hope is that the Pelicans keep it close and these guys get their full run, because if they do, I think most of them can pay off their salaries tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right about that one. I do think that Jalen Smith at 5.5 is definitely a really good option, especially there's no JaVale McGee there now. And JaVale McGee soaks up a ton of, not just minutes, but he soaks up, I shouldn't say minutes, he soaks up a ton of fantasy points per minute. And that also, and I know Bismack Biyombo's there, but I don't know how much he's going to play. And the Suns, they are very comfortable with saying, hey, even though you're playing big, we'll play small. We'll put Cam Johnson at the 5. We're perfectly comfortable with that. And Cam Johnson at 5.2, I wouldn't completely sleep on him as an option because you are missing Jay Crowder. And if the shots fall, Cam will obviously shoot him a little bit more. So 5.2, it's not the most comfortable price tag, but I do think he's in play here. I do like Chris Paul. DC, I'm curious to hear what you think. You like Chris Paul? Just
real quick, I just looked it up, and it looks like 3 straight blowouts, too, for the Suns guys. So all these guys have been playing pretty well, and they haven't got their full allotment of run. Yes, can they blow out the Pelicans tonight? Absolutely they can, but it's only 7 in that 7-point spread. So yeah, I'm even a little higher on these Suns guys now.
Yeah, I agree with you. And if the game does stay close, that'll be big for them. And they could still get there without it because this Suns team, they definitely do produce. If they blow them out, obviously, like Chris Paul's probably part of it, right, DC? I don't know if this is the TNT game. I don't think it is that TNT game, but maybe it is. And Chris Paul, he's a bit petty. And, on the bet side, Tyler reminded us, this is a revenge game, technically. I mean, it technically is, Chris Paul was a Pelican maybe 8 years ago, very, very long time ago. But hey, Chris Paul likes to get the job done against his former teams. Do you think he gets the job here done against the Pelicans?
Yeah, you take the price discount, right? $7,400 for Chris Paul, I think is an excellent play. And you see it, listen, they lost DeAndre Ayton. Now they lose JaVale McGee. They'll lose Jay Crowder on the wing. Listen, as long as you got Chris Paul and then to, I think, a lesser extent, Devin Booker, but especially Chris Paul, your offense is going to go, that's just what they do. And Mangone, you kind of mentioned they can go small. I disagree a little bit there. Like, to me, the Suns, when DeAndre Ayton's in, right, he's the starter. He plays like 30 to 35 minutes. And then all the other center minutes, they go to JaVale McGee. Both guys smash in their minutes. Ayton goes down. We see JaVale McGee smash when he's the starter for the minutes he gets. His backup, Jalen Smith, also crushes whenever he gets in the game, right? Because you got the pick and roll with Chris Paul, which is like the best spot for a big man to be. So now that's Jalen Smith's job. They also signed Bismack Biyombo, who is a stone minimum on DraftKings. If you look at the last game, he was a direct backup to Jalen Smith, right? And to me, they signed Bismack Biyombo because he's the fourth guy that can do the job, right? Like, DeAndre Ayton does the job. He goes down, McGee can do the job. Jalen Smith can do the job. I bet Bismack Biyombo with Chris Paul can do the job as well in this offense. So I don't know where the minutes are going to go with Jalen Smith. It doesn't seem like they want to give him a ton of minutes. It could be close to an even split between Smith and Biyombo. So I like that pivot if you want to make it to a min price Biyombo. Again, not entirely safe, but I'll be very surprised if he's not, doesn't play 15 to 25 minutes here. Something happens to Jalen Smith, I bet Biyombo could be out there for the majority of the game if Jalen Smith gets in foul trouble against Jonas Valanciunas, something like that, which could easily happen, of course. So I think Biyombo at very low ownership, 3K can't really hurt you. Put up 24 fantasy points in 18 minutes last game. I think he's signed to play this role. I think he's going to play it well, and I kind of like him as a pivot. So yeah, Paul, Jalen Smith, or Biyombo. I wouldn't play both Biyombo and Jalen Smith in the same lineup. And then you go out to the wing. Yeah, Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, both going to be out there a ton. They're both cheap. Great matchup. Really awesome matchup, right, against the Pelicans. So yeah, I'm very, very high on this Suns team in general. I think, even if they blow them out, it's got to come from the guys that you're going to roster anyway, right? They've got to be crushing it by the time that happens, because it's not like there's dudes off the bench here that can really take over a game. So yeah, I'm in on the Suns for sure.
Yeah, listen, I don't hate the Biyombo call, especially like more large field tournaments. Probably not stuff I'm playing in as much, so probably why I'm not keying in on it as much, but it's a good leverage play, right? If obviously Jalen Smith gets into foul trouble, which is certainly possible against Valanciunas, it's definitely a route that you could go. Also, it does leverage the Damian Jones play, right? A little bit too, for the Kings, who I think will be a chalkier option. Hoop, I don't know. I blend shows together. I don't know if it was this show. I don't know if it was the bet show, but we talked about the Jazz and how they're the team that hasn't been hit yet with the old health and safety protocols. Well, not so fast. Joe Ingles, he got hit first time. So I think it was this show we were just talking about it, but the Jazz, as the doctor on this show, what's your thoughts? I mean, we're gonna be playing some Jazz here. It looks like going forward. Is it going to spread throughout everything?
Yeah, we'll have to see. They've avoided it so far. I mean, it is interesting. Like, it really depends on when you get hit with all this stuff, because now it's only 5 days. You can get right back to it. So some of these teams that got hit early on, where they, for some reason, had to sit out 10 games, which is egregious. Well, the teams that get it later on, it's only the 5 games now, so they'll be able to get right back. But yeah, I'd be surprised if it stopped at Ingles. I'm assuming we'll get a couple more positives here along the way.
I like that the other guys are just like, okay, well, I guess I have it too.
Yeah. Also,
I'm down. One more team. Running through one more team. I'm down for some Hassan Whiteside at like 4,200, going for 40. Yeah,
he's a little banged up, so we need to get him back. That's the only thing. He's
rooting for Omicron on the Jazz situation.
It's going to get interesting there. It is funny the way this is actually funny how it works. It started with Rudy Gobert. Does it end with Rudy Gobert?
Oh yeah, the last guy.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
it could be. Maybe that's a sign, right? You never.
We'll probably never get it.
Yeah. But we got another comment in the chat. Troy Cole says, Big T, you almost took it down last night. DC. So I don't know if anyone tweeted at Big T and told him he almost take down one. He doesn't like that. So make sure you don't do that. Don't tell Big T, oh, you're in first. That's not good. So don't do that to him. But what are the odds Big T's watching this show? Do we think he's in there? If you are here, Big T, say something in the chat, make a comment. But do you think that Big T is watching this show right now at this time, DC?
I think there's a decent chance he's watching. Yeah, Big T just supports the crew for sure, and needs our advice because he didn't finish first. So He's probably here soaking up the knowledge.
Hope I mean, lunch is over. Is the nap over for Big T? I think there's a chance he watches, but he might not watch on that like 1.5 speed and catch up. He might tune in about like 5 minutes. I feel like that's the time Big T rolls in.
Big T, a big nap guy?
Oh yeah. Big T's schedule is dependent on what time he eats lunch. So if he eats a late lunch, he takes a late nap every afternoon. He gets his nap in. So if he had a late lunch, still could be potentially napping, but he's always lurking though. You take your little. I always take my little shots at Big T, and not knowing whether or not he's watching. I mean, everything I say in here, I'll say right to Big T's face. But there you go. He's in the chat, just like that. So yeah, Big T's he's always lurking. That's for sure.
There we go. Big T. I watch my boys every single day, of course. So yeah, I just wanted to check. I don't know. He's not an active chatter. That's why I ask it. You see other people very active in there. I'm sure then he hits that like button, which, hey, we got to get those up to 38. We got some time to really pull the plug on those plays. So let's move those things along. We can move on to the next game. We got about 5 minutes left injury report. So hopefully by the time we're done with this game, or maybe at least by the time we finish this game, we'll have some injury news and some stuff, and we can discuss that a little bit. Then if we're still able to, we can give out those plays, and then we'll, kind of move on. And then the Up the Lock show is up after us. So be sure to check that out. Let's talk to you, DC. Let's talk about the Kings and the Lakers, because I think there's a lot of good guys below that 10K range. But LeBron James, with all the value, he's easy to slam into your lineups. And on the opposite side, the Kings, they can be a bit uncomfortable. I mean, who's the alpha now? Is it De'Aaron Fox? Is it Halliburton? Is Damian Jones a value play that you want to get in your lineups? Because I think he could be risky if LeBron James plays the 5. And I'll tell you this, if LeBron James is at the 5, I'm interested. If LeBron James is not at the 5, I don't know if I'm as interested, because that's going to take away from that triple-double upside, maybe even the double-double and getting those rebounds. And yeah, throughout the game, they could obviously say, hey, Dwight Howard, we don't want you anymore, but I wouldn't be shocked if they start him in this spot. So that is something I am struggling with. I think LeBron is a good play, but I also think he's going to gain a ton of ownership, because look above 10K. It's Russell Westbrook and it's LeBron James. And that's it. There's really no one else to roster unless Julius Randle comes back. And I think people are going to be nervous to roster him. So DC, how are you handling this interesting Kings and Lakers game?
Yeah, from the Lakers side, it's mostly kind of LeBron or bust for me. If you can afford him, if you can build a lineup that you like around him, go right ahead. Don't pay attention to that one, quote unquote off game where he scored 51, 52 fantasy points. Look at the previous 4 or 5 games, putting up 70 plus for most of them. That's LeBron. We've talked about it before. We just kind of expect that now going forward until Anthony Davis returns, even with Westbrook in there. LeBron's just got to do it. And so at home against the Kings, I mean, of course he's going to smash here. So, I like these high floor, high ceiling combination plays. That's what I'm willing to pay for, right? That's why it's hard to roster a guy like Steph Curry at his price point, because sure, the ceiling's there, but the floor is 30 to 40. Like, that's not the floor for LeBron James. The floor is kind of what you saw last game, in my opinion, in this current Lakers state. You're going to get 50 plus. So he's not going to hurt you. And he's got a good chance of, kind of being a must play if he gets that 70 to 80 that he's shown so many times recently. So love LeBron if you can afford him. I don't think you have to play him once you get to this high of a price tag. If you have a more balanced build that you like a little bit better, I think that's fine. But if you can afford LeBron, certainly you can today. Hard to go wrong there. Westbrook, I think, is fine. I certainly prefer LeBron, even with the discount. So I won't end up with much Westbrook. Where I can, I'll get up to LeBron. And then from the Kings side, Damian Jones going to get the start here, right? Played 29 minutes last game, put up good numbers. Matchup is good no matter who the Lakers start, whether that's LeBron or Dwight Howard. It doesn't really matter too much. But yeah, Damian Jones, 4K. I like it. I assume he'll be popular for good reason. We'll see what the Lakers do with LeBron at the 5. I mean, I don't know. LeBron can defend whether it's Damian Jones or Alex Len or Tristan Thompson. I don't think they're going to run their offense to attack LeBron down there against that anyway. So Lakers can kind of do whatever they want. LeBron, you could argue his best position is a 5 at this point in his career, because then you can just surround him with shooters, right? So makes some sense there. But we'll see what the Lakers do. Love LeBron here, mostly off the other Lakers. And then from the Kings, going to mostly be Damian Jones if I want to punt that center spot at 4K.
Yeah, and I agree with LeBron at the 5 is the way to go going forward. But the problem is you can't do it every game because that'll break him down too much and destroy him. So they have to be careful. And
Will guarding Damian Jones destroy LeBron? I kind of have my doubts.
fair, but the games you just say, hey, let's let Dwight get in there. I wouldn't be shocked if they decide, hey, like this is a good spot to give it to Dwight more. We don't need to do it here in this spot specifically.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if the starting lineup comes out and it says Dwight Howard in there, and I'm like, okay, like. He's not out for some reason, right? I don't think I'm missing that. I know there's.
Do you think LeBron decides the starting lineup, or do you think the coach does?
LeBron.
Yeah, I mean, probably LeBron, but yeah, he definitely has a say.
Like, I want to guard this guy to start the game or not. You know,
I don't think the conversation happens every day. DC, it goes. You know what? I'm going to start playing the 5. Let's see how that goes. Yeah. And then when LeBron decides to change it up, or the coach is like, hey, like let's go with this. Yeah, he gets consulted on it, but LeBron definitely wants to be doing this.
If he wants a specific starting lineup, that's the starting lineup for the game. Like, maybe sometimes he doesn't mind too much; he just goes with the flow. But if he wants the change is happening. I would say that one.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. So, yeah, I do think that this is definitely an option to go to. Like, LeBron makes sense; he's definitely a good option, but I don't know, Hoop. Like, I think that LeBron is a good play, but I think there's a lot of other good plays. If you built a lineup, just real quick, let's just take 3 studs that you could play. If you decided I'm going to fade LeBron in this late, and you said, you know what, I'm going to play Sabonis, I'm going to play Chris Paul, and then I'm going to play Fred VanVleet or even a Ja Morant instead, then you can't afford LeBron. And I don't think it's crazy if those guys all get there and have a big game and you fill it out with value. I think it's definitely a viable route on this slate. So how are you handling it? Because I think LeBron is going to be on the cash chart. I saw some people in the Discord chat, they're wondering where Hoop's player pool is. Well, you can get that in the cash chart. All the guys that you're looking to play today, I'm assuming LeBron will be on the cash chart and you'll have some interest in him. How are you handling him, though, on this slate for cash games and GPPs?
I mean, I've just been playing a ton of LeBron for the last couple of weeks. I mean, ever since, he's moved to the 5, and it's just working out for him. I just don't think they're going to change it up today and put Dwight Howard in here, DeAndre Jordan. Like, the fact that he would have to go against Damian Jones, I don't think it's going to result in the Lakers switching their lineup. It's going to force the Kings to potentially switch their lineup because Damian Jones having to guard LeBron James or whoever it is, it's just not going to work. So I'm a little hesitant on Damian Jones. I get it.
One thing to mention before you keep going, Netu is out. So that could help Damian Jones more.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, that's one other bigger body that's going to be out of the rotation. What did Netu last game? So his role has diminished a little bit, 15 minutes, 19 minutes. But yeah, that definitely does help. That helps Damian Jones for sure. That helps Marvin Bagley probably too, right?
Helps Bagley a lot. He's a guy I think that I'm definitely going to shoot up a little bit in my minutes, and I'm just going to project him up a little bit more.
Yeah, Bagley becomes, I think, a much better play now. He's just going to have to play. So yeah, that is. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it's pretty big news, I think, for this slate. But yeah, I'm just playing LeBron at a high rate. I understand what you're saying. Like those teams where you can play Sabonis and a Raptors guy, and then like another spend like Chris Paul. Yeah, I get it. That's what makes this slate pretty good. I think it's a good slate. I'm just going to lean with going LeBron. I mean, we've seen his upside lately, and it's now like 70 points. He's taken it personally that this team is sucking. And prior to the 53 fantasy points last game, you're looking at 5 straight over 60 and some 70 fantasy point games. So love LeBron here. Westbrook on FanDuel, I think, is fine at 9K. And then on the King side, more so looking at the bigs, and they just got a little boost. Like you said, Damian analyze the situation a little bit more, but those guys definitely got a little bit of a boost now that Metu was ruled out. But love LeBron here tonight. 6 straight games and just smashing. I think it continues tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you. And one thing that's nice about LeBron, that's small forward and point guard eligibility. You get to roster him a lot of other spots where the ownership's going to go up, because if he was only power forward eligible like he was, well, that would have affected things with obviously Sabonis being a really good play. So I think it could have messed some stuff up, and that's going to drive his ownership, I think, up a bunch. So, and like I said, I'm definitely going back and forth on how to handle LeBron. I've been slamming LeBron for a while. I think like the one time I think I got off was that Memphis game when it was 12-4 and it was really expensive, but I've been on the LeBron train and I'm considering getting off, even though the price tag has gone down, but I don't know how I want to handle it yet. It's still definitely a very tough spot, but I want to get LeBron in my lineups. I know it. And if you only fade him, you can just play so many other good plays. And if those studs get there, your team is definitely in play to ship a lot of stuff, in my opinion. So definitely going back and forth on how to handle LeBron James here. Like him a lot. DC, any final thoughts here with the whole Metu news and anything changed from some of the conversations we've had with this Lakers and Kings game?
I really try to avoid trusting the Kings whenever possible. Just as a general rule of thumb. I know Bagley is in a much better spot with Holmes and Metu out, but they can move Barnes to the 4. They've got plenty of 5s there. So I don't think Bagley's going to play any at the 5. Barnes can move up. So I don't mind Bagley at 4,800, but his price is up a little bit, and he still hasn't had like a big game, right? We haven't seen it from him quite yet. It could happen here, certainly, but I don't know. I try not to play Kings, and that'll probably be my strategy tonight, frankly.
All right. Yeah. One last thing I'll mention, DC, just because I think this is a good chat comment, right? DC said it best. LeBron at home versus Sacramento, got to play him. Well, James Harden, the way he was playing, he can't fail. There's no chance he'll fail, right? There's no chance he can fail, DC. And then yesterday, only 40. It's definitely possible. But again, it depends on the slate. It's really easy to get LeBron into your lineup.
Well, you didn't. You should have tuned into the Up to Lock show, man, going, because JSU laughed me off the show when I said that I would take Beal straight up over Harden, no question about it. I think he outscored him by 20, 25. So
and I did that yesterday too. On one of my teams was Harden and Beal. The other one, I had to make a decision. It was Beal and not Harden. So I was with the same camp as you. It worked out well. I did think both were really good plays, though. It wasn't like I was like, the salary mattered. Sometimes the salary matters, and it mattered on that team that I was building out, and I thought it was the better play. Ended up going there with that. Hoop, any final thoughts here? And we got the likes up, so we got to get those plays of the day for the people. We got 287 with almost 600 watching. So any final thoughts here on this slate, and then we'll move on into those plays of the day.
Yeah, good momentum building into the Up to Lock show. It's part of our premium product. BigT, JSU, Holden. We'll cover all the news that breaks. Up to Lock, probably going to get that Julius Randle news, I'm assuming, here pretty soon. Those guys will cover everything and take you all the way up to lock. But yeah, looking forward to this slate. No Thursday night football, so NBA is going to be the focus here up until Saturday. So a lot of solid slates to come, and a lot of RPS logos at the top of leaderboards.
Well, one last thing, Hoop. That's not the only thing. What do we got tonight on the YouTube channel? We got a PGA Strokes game.
PGA comes back, yeah.
Yeah, PGA's back. We'll have Hoop's content, right? So be sure to check out the cash chart there if you want the player pool that Hoop is playing. That seems like a good idea to go to. I'm interested in that. So tell the people a little bit. There's a Strokes game show tonight. I think it's Tambo, it's Snyder, and it's Uncle T.
T.
Yep, you've done shows with them. You know a little bit about the show. Talk a little bit about that. It's, if you subscribe to the channel, you'll get notified when it goes live tonight. And be sure to check out those winners. So tell the people a little bit about that show if they don't know much about it.
Yeah, right here on the same channel. They're going to be Tambo, Snyder, and Uncle T, 3 very, very knowledgeable guys on PGA, breaking down the Tournament of Champions, what's it called, the Century or something. So yeah, they'll be breaking it all down. We'll have all our content. We'll have a playbook. We have core plays. We have tiers. We have cash charts. And we're going to roll with this schedule until NFL's over. Once NFL's over, we'll have 2 shows. We'll have a Tuesday night show and a Wednesday night show. But for now, it's going to be the one show on Tuesday night. So make sure you tune in right here on this channel.
Yeah, can I get one golf hoop take, which you and I stand arm in arm on fading Jordan Spieth a lot.
Yeah.
The numbers, I did a little quick stuff. The numbers look good on Jordan Spieth at this event. I don't know what the ownership is and everything, but what are you doing with Jordan Spieth for the event this week?
Yeah, I know he's been good here in the past, but he kind of fell off at the end of the season there. And, it's in the areas where he's typically stable with like the irons and everything. And I'm probably going to be out. He finished dead last, I think, the last time out. It was in that no cut event. I can't remember which one it was.
He sucks at no cut, right? He's never really been a big no cut guy, but he's been great here, I will say.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards fading him. Got to take some stands. I'm leaning towards. I don't know what sort of ownership he's going to have, but I don't think I like him this week all that much.
All right, DC, we're not going to ask you for some golf takes. Don't worry.
Good call. Good call.
Yeah, were you scrambling there to find a golfer? Is John Rahm in the field?
I was preparing to throw it right back to you if you try to give me.
Oh man, that would have been good times. No, we will not have golf takes from DC, but you never know. DC might hop on. Sometimes we do those big round table type shows, which this is part of the premium product that happens. We'll all just hop on like Wednesday night and just like 9 of us just out there Brady Bunch style talking about the golf and making fun of each other. Big T saying this play sucks, this one's good. So we make some bets along the way. So that's a fun time too. So that's another reason to sign up over here at Run Pure Sports. But DC, let's go to you. Give me your play of the day. Who do you got here on this 5-game slate?
I'm going to go to a guy we talked about previously. He was very under-owned last night. Desmond Bain for Memphis. A lot of guys out for them. He's got to pick up some of that scoring. And I think the best way to attack Cleveland by far is on the wing. 6,700 on DraftKings, 7,200 on FanDuel. Like him on both sites and like him to put up 30-plus real points maybe tonight. I think he's going to light up this Cleveland team. So Desmond Bain.
Yeah, I like the call. That was one I considered, but I had a feeling you were going with it too. So I'm going to go to a guy that I have talked up a little bit here on this show. It was earlier on. You can play some Spurs with it. It's Mr. Fred VanVleet. Like, I think he's going to be very elite tonight. I think he gets the job done, and minutes equal money, and the minutes should be there for old Freddie, and I like the spot for him. So give me Fred VanVleet. Hopefully he gets the job done. I think he's a really good contrarian option up at the top. Yeah, he won't be 5% owned on this slate, but he's not going to be LeBron James 80% or some of those other guys. Like I think Sabonis is maybe the second stud that people go to. So I think he's a really good option. Hoop, I'll head on over to you. I don't know if we stole any of your plays. I don't know if you're ready with your rich parents play of the day, but who do you got here?
I had Bain on the short list, but I knew going last that it was not Mr. Bain was not going to be available for the Rich Parents play today. I do like Bain, but I'm going to go to a different team. I'm going to go to the Suns. We all kind of like the Suns tonight to get the job done. I'm going to go to one of the lower owned guys, Mikal Bridges. I really like him. 4.8K on DK, 5.4 I believe on FanDuel. Should be pretty low owned tonight. It's a good matchup. All we need is the Pelicans to keep this game close, and I could see like 4 Suns having really big games tonight. So give me Bridges as the Rich Parents play of the day.
Yep, agreed with you on that. I think it's a good call. A couple things. Slick the Rule in the chat said DC will absolutely join in on the drinking though, and then he said, "Damn DC, hot bod." So is that your burner? Like I don't know what's going on there, DC. Did you pay someone? What's going on there with Mr. Slick the Rule?
Not my burner, but I appreciate the compliment. Thank you, sir.
Watch out. Another reason to subscribe to Run Pure Sports. Maybe DC, when's your birthday? Are you on the calendar for a certain month? What month can we get you on the calendar for your birthday?
June.
All right, the June edition when it's really getting hot outside. So be sure to check that out.
I can't give the exact date on the free show. There's too many creeps out there watching.
Yeah, can't do that. Good call there, DC. Hoop. Final thing before we get out of here. Maybe we can get this from you. You won't be on the Wednesday show. So do you have a golf winner, like your favorite play, a guy that you'd like to get? Maybe it's not your favorite play. Maybe it's a guy to just get overweight on. Do you have a golf guy ready to go, or is it too early? Because it could be a little too early.
I haven't dug deep, but let's say
whoever you say, I'm playing this guy. So just don't screw this
up. Let's go with let me pull this up.
I could stall if you need me to stall a little bit. I can.
I'm gonna give a low owned dude here, Max Homa.
I've looked quick. As a cheap guy, I like that one, and I know on these no cut events, Hoop likes a little. Let's just go to the basement. Let's go down to the 6-3.
Yes.
And the big hitters, right? The big hitters down there.
Yeah,
a little erratic early on. Good.
Well, it's also
fairways are massive here, and there's no cut. So.
And no cut means, what does that mean? Well, it means fantasy points is what you want. You want those DK points. And Max Homa can go out there and get buckets. So, and he's also a guy that I think he likes the DFS community. I feel like he's interacting with us a little bit. I'm trying to remember, but I like the call. That's one guy that I looked at and was considering my player pool. He'll be in my player pool for sure now. I will be overweight on some Max Homa, but that'll wrap it up for us, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us here. Check out JSU coming up next on the final countdown show with a bunch of the guys. Should be a good time. But for me, Mangone, Hoop, and DC, we will see you guys later.